Hello, friends. Welcome to the Thinning of the Veil podcast. I'm your host, Tia Smith, and this is the beginning and start of something new that we're going to do. We are going to be separating the stories from the episodes so that it will be a standalone that you may have easier access in finding these stories. There's so much testimony building when we hear other people's thinning of the veil experiences. And I feel like it needs to be more accessible. So it means more work for me, but hopefully it will mean more to you and all the rest of the listeners who are listening to increase their testimonies of these thinning of the veil experiences. It has seemed this week, especially, that Satan has just been after me like no one's business. This morning, I commented to my husband, I don't even know why I'm doing this. It seems like it's not making a difference. I want to quit. It's exhausting. And we both know why I'm doing it. It's because the Lord has asked me to do it. But it has been super crazy busy, overwhelming, and yet being blessed in so many ways. And when I'm feeling like this, as I tend to do from time to time, it seems like I get an email or something, a text from someone that just says, keep going. And that is what happened to me today. I had a dear friend reach out in an email, and he said at the very end of his email, continue your joyous sacrifice as you are reaching more than you know in the gathering of Israel. Thank you, my dear friend, for sending that in the nick of time. I've had a day, and that helped me to move on in this work. So thank you for the encouraging emails. Thank you for your ancestor stories. Thank you for your own thinning of the veil experiences. Thank you for your financial support. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for putting my name in the temple. I cannot say thank you enough to all you, my new friends, who I didn't know before. And I think that's just such a great part of this podcast experience is that I get to know people that I never would have if I hadn't of had the faith to start that. And today we're going to be talking about a story about faith and priesthood power and a thinning of the veil experience. This comes from my dear friends Linda and Laron Hall. It is an ancestor of theirs, and it's truly remarkable as we've been studying Enoch, and they're not only attaining to Zion, but attaining to priesthood power enough to wield power over the natural elements. That seems to be part of this calling election process, part of this transfiguration. You know, it's been exhibited in so many scriptural accounts and stories. Therefore, the pattern says that we, as current Latter-day Saints in this last dispensation, if we have enough faith and if the Lord deems necessary to have enough priesthood power to continue his work moving forward. And I think sometimes these experiences are also given for descendants to hang on to the small particle of faith that they think that may have and encourage them to learn more, to hold on to their covenants, and to really trust in the Savior Jesus Christ. So this is a story about a man named Waldemar C. Lybbert. And this is in his own words as it happened to him. Late in the fall of 1888, I think it was December, I was hauling grain and merchandise to Ouray Indian Agency, some 35 miles south of Vernal, then Ashley. The road those days was down canyons, over hills, through sand domes, etc. The day was ideal. My load was for 4 horses. There had been about 4 inches of snow, but most of this was gone, except in the shade of brush or rocks. I made my camp on the Green River at a point known as Baser's Bend. I unhooked and took the horses to the river to water them, but the ice was so thick I could not get at the water. So I went back to camp, built a fire, and melted snow in a 5-gallon can and a small bucket enough for the 4 horses. Then I ate my supper. There was quite a heavy breeze coming from the west, so I took 1 tier of oat sacks up and laid them on the west for a windbreak, and I said my prayers and tucked myself in, ready for the night's rest. These introductory remarks helped me to determine the time. This must have been about 9 p.m. While lying there, I heard a terrible roar coming from the northeast down the river. Within a couple of minutes, this struck me as a heavy wind and cold, although I was among heavy brush. The wind blew the hay away from the horses and pierced through my bedding as though I had nothing around me. I arose and tucked in closer, but the wind and frost went right through. I tried to ward the cold off, but in spite of, I got colder. Suddenly a voice spoke to me and said, "Why don't you rebuke the wind?" Accordingly, I arose to my elbow and rebuked the wind in the name of the Messiah. The words I used were given to me. There were about 26 or 28 words, and so plain and easy spoken that I determined to repeat them and remember them. This I did once. Then I tried again and missed a few words. I tried to repeat again and lost a few more. The next effort was a failure. And then a plain voice said, "This is the language that Adam spoke." The wind by this time had passed right by, and I could hear it roar away into the southwest until it just faded away. Then a voice said to me, "This is the power of faith, which the Savior meant when he said that mountains could be moved by faith." I truly felt overcome by these manifestations. I again in prayer thanked the Lord for what had come to me. I got up and refed the horses, went to bed, and slept soundly until sunrise. I got up, grained the horses, hooked up, drove down to another bend in the river, got a large rock and broke the ice, watered, then drove on. At Bracer Hill, I had to unload 1/2 of the load, making 2 trips up the hill to get the load up. I loaded and went on to Ouray. When I got there about noon, the merchant said, "Dear me, young man, you must have had a terrible trip. The wind started here last night a little after 9 and has been blowing a hurricane all night. It just stopped about an hour ago. The thermometer has stood at 14 below zero." I was in a perfect calm. I unloaded, had dinner, and drove home. I got home about 11. Mother was waiting for me. When I got in, she said, "Goodness, you must have had a dreadful trip. The wind started here last night about 9 and never stopped until just before sundown. And Father says the thermometer has stood at 12 below zero all day." The wind didn't blow one moment where I was, either coming or going, after the rebuke. I hardly think age will ever obliterate the sensation that this brought to me. Nor could anything be brought to bear that could make me believe there's no life after death, or that there is not power in faith or communications from those on the other side. Let these lines go down the stream of time and be a testimony to all our vast families, ever affirming the truthfulness of the above incident, the Lord being my helper. Waldemar C. Lybbert. I'm grateful that Linda and Laron chose to share this with me. This is not only a story of faith, of a thinning of the veil experience, of the miracles that can happen with priesthood power for Brother Lybbert's descendants, but is also a story for all of us to remember as we move forward and as the natural elements, as prophesied, will get more and more unruly. we can remember this humble testimony of Brother Lybbert and the power that can come during a thinning of the veil experience if faith is exhibited in mighty levels. This story has brought another skip in my step to stay on the covenant path, to continue to do what the Lord has asked me to do in testifying of these thinning of the veil experiences. So thank you, my friends, for sending this story for all of us to hear and for all of us to gain faith in the power of the priesthood and the power that the Savior has over all things. We need not fear, my friends. I hope this has added to your testimony that the thinning of the veil experiences are real and that they can happen to anyone at any time, anywhere. Have a good week. We'll see ya. Bye.